To the talk show where men unite, having conversations that inspire, ignite. From relationships to wellness, we cover it all. In this positive space, we're standing tall. We're the men of the talk show, spreading good vibes.
All right, welcome back to the third episode of season 3. We have a very special guest with us today, Brandon LeMaster with us. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Brandon, where you're from, what you do, and then we're going to talk about how people that have learning disabilities or disabilities in general, how does that affect their dating life and work life? So go ahead and introduce
Awesome.
yourself.
Sounds good. My name is Brandon LeMaster. I am from El Paso, Texas, big part of Texas, and I am a group fitness instructor. Actually, I teach Zumba and Silver Sneakers classes.
Nice. I've done Zumba a few times. It's not easy.
I teach everything for Zumba with the exception of the Zumbini classes for the babies, the newborns, and Zumba Kids and Kids Juniors. So everything else like Sentao and all that, I teach all that.
How long you been doing that?
6 going on. This will be my 7th year this year. So
That's a lot of commitment.
Yeah,
yes,
a lot of
definitely.
moving around too.
Yes, a lot of dancing. So
All right, let's just get right into it here. So share some of your experiences of learning disabilities or disabilities in general that you face when you're trying to.
So, kind of give you guys some insight. Basically, I've had issues where this affects both employment and school. In high school, how they have the IEPs and all that stuff.
Mhm.
That's a big part of it. But now that I've transitioned into college, I can honestly say that there are accommodations. And I know some people think that in college it's the same as high school, and it's actually the opposite. In college, there is such a thing as accommodations, but they don't modify the work. So if you're in college, you will get accommodations. They can give you a note taker, they can give you a quiet place to take a test, even double time on tests. But as far as them modifying the work, that just doesn't happen. So when it comes to college, honestly, it took me a while to adjust because I do have several learning disabilities, and it's always every semester, it's always a new challenge. So it just depends on the class and the professor, how they teach and all that. But for the most part, my professors have been really understanding of my disabilities and how I learn and all that.
Which school do you go to?
El Paso Community College.
Okay. Big ups to El Paso Community College for having the accessibility and wow. So you said every semester is a different challenge. What are some of the challenges that come up by semester? Is it that you have to explain to the professor, like every professor, of accommodations you need?
Yes, and that's usually the counselors that do that. They have a specific department for the Center for Students with Disabilities, and the counselors either whether it's online or face to face, usually they'll send the forms with that information to the professor so they know like, hey, we have a student that is got a disability and they're getting services from the Center for Students with Disabilities, then the professor actually has to do those accommodations in class, whether it be for testing or, note taker is usually done where they come in and they say, hey, we're looking to purchase notes, and they'll pay, takers at the end of the semester for their time, basically.
So let's go back a little bit before college. When did you know that you had like a disability? Did it start?
I've known since I was about 3 years old. I was diagnosed at that age with autism, ADHD, ADD, Asperger's syndrome, which I know is not the politically correct term anymore, but high functioning autism, OCD. Those were the main diagnoses I got when I was 3 years old, and the doctor described it as a mixed bag of goodies because it was so much. And I think initially they weren't 100% sure diagnosing all that, but it wasn't until I got into my later life and my adult years that I was diagnosed with IDD and then eventually bipolar 2. So those diagnoses sort of came at a later time in my adult life.
What is IDD?
Intellectual developmental disability.
Okay. God, how's that different from like ADHD?
So with ADHD, I tend to have like spurts of energy that like, especially at night when I'm trying to sleep, that's a big issue for me. I'll wake up and I don't want to go to bed. Like I fight sleep. So I'm taking 2 very strong sleep medications so I can get my brain to shut down at night. Usually what happens is I have racing thoughts, or I'll literally have moments where I just have these bursts of energy and I can't get my brain to shut down, literally. So it's very frustrating. ADD is just attention to deficit disorder, but that will cause me to have episodes where I literally can't stay focused for a long period of time, basically.
Yeah.
Do you like take medication for it or
Yes, I do.
okay? And like how much is the dosage for it?
So I take, I think, of the medications because I'm not exactly in pharmacology there, but like some of the ones I take are like I have high blood pressure because it runs in my family, and so does diabetes. And I don't have diabetes yet, luckily, but I'm trying to avoid that. But I take different types of medications, so it really depends on what psychiatric meds I'm taking. But I have different ones for various conditions. So
Yeah. And a lot of times when we talk about mental health with men, what is something like the mechanisms that you kind of out with like your disabilities? Do you like have groups that kind of help? Do you have friends that can help you out?
yes,
That you
definitely.
can
I
talk
have
to?
friends that understand my disabilities because I also know a lot of parents that have, or adult children that are autistic. I've spoken at conferences before, and I've actually met a few friends from these conferences, and they've said, like when they first got diagnosed, they were shocked and they're like, they're not going to really do much. But then they see someone like me and they're just like, whoa, you've given me, and I've had parents tell me, you've given me so much hope. I'm just so, what you've been able to accomplish, basically. So,
Yeah, yeah, with me too. Like, because I talked about it last season, my disability as well too. Obviously, you can't see it. Everybody's
right,
learning disability is different, but I think one of
right,
the biggest stigmas from people that have disabilities that are, needing accommodations, or it's just like nobody wants to be friends with you because you might be feeling like,
right,
you just don't fit into the crowd.
right, of
So, how
course.
did you kind of throughout, because I know the high school is kind of rough,
Oh,
you know?
yeah. High school was kind of bullying. Middle school was throughout. When I finally graduated from high school and I got into college, I was just over high school pretty much. There was nothing they had left to offer me. And I just, every semester was always something different in college. And that was the thing that really kind of from high school, because high school, it's always homecomings, pep rallies, proms, and it's like this thing pretty much every year.
Mhm.
Whereas in college, you have something different every semester, and it's always something interesting. So, I mean, different events, some of which I wish the high schools would do. A lot of it was very different from what I was used to in high school. It just became so monotonous that every year was like I said, the proms, high school, homecomings, the football games, the sports games, and even the pep
Yeah.
rallies. It was just over it, basically.
So, did you plan on going to college after high school? Like,
Yeah.
obviously, you talked about your learning disabilities. Was that a barrier to get into certain colleges?
No, and it's not so much a barrier, but colleges do have to provide accommodations to students that need them. And I know for a fact some colleges that I've seen, because I wanted to do nursing school at one point, and I know for a fact there was a few colleges I went to that they didn't have a center dedicated to like services. So that for me, I don't know if that's something that those particular colleges or universities need to address, but I know like the two big ones here in El Paso, they have those services available.
Okay, because I'm going to ask what made you choose El Paso Community College, and that seems like that part of it is the
Right.
support system there.
Right. No, and the University of Texas at El Paso or UTEP also has those services. It's just the EPCC is a lot cheaper with the tuition, and you can actually get your basics out there for a lot less comparatively to UTEP.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
also, you can also get, like your associates there and move it to like UTEP. You want to get your bachelor's or even your master's degree or doctorate or whatever degree you want to get up higher up.
I gotta say that is the way to go in the future.
Yes.
That's what I'm trying to. I have a high school daughter, and that's what I tell my friends who have kids. Like, in a 4-year degree, you can still get that later on, but like then
Right.
you're $40,000 in debt when you can go to community college. They have a lot of services. Depending on county or cut. And brothers at they high school graduate could get a free 2-year degree at the community
Right.
college. So it's like they have so many programs for that where you don't have to go into debt, and then you can rotate
Right.
that into someplace else. So yeah, absolutely, definitely right path with that. And what's your major? I think you said already. Maybe I forgot if I did. Apologize.
Surgical technology.
Surgical. You didn't say. What is that about?
So basically, they're like surgical assistants. Basically, in the OR, they get the room ready for surgery. They sanitize and sterilize everything. They'll basically be in surgery with the doctor, and the doctor literally will tell them, like, scalpel or something like that. I know occasionally they suture wounds. They assist the doctor that is doing the surgery in whatever way they need help, basically, and it's just like back and forth that.
Well, definitely connect with that because my wife is a trauma provider, so she's often in the ER with the doctors, doing the same thing, doing and closing up the sutures and then monitoring. Where she works, they have the robotics where the
Okay.
doctor's over here looking at monitors, and then the over there with like someone like you is handing the instruments to the robot, and then they're doing the thing. So
Mhm.
it's crazy. Have you done any like thing like, or how far along are you in the class?
So right now I'm barely starting. I was at EPCC for 4 years. I finished all of my core classes from the state requirement classes, and right now I'm currently working on two of the classes I need to rank into the program. It's my first semester back about, I want to say, 5 or 6 years. I took a long hiatus from school, and I'm just returning this semester for the first time in a long time. So
Yeah. So before we get into the other question I want to ask you, what is some of the challenges that you kind of give, like, in, I know you say you have accommodations that can kind of comment, but obviously it doesn't take away from the work that you have to still do in college, with
right.
your peers and stuff like that. But what is some of the technique that you kind of use? And like, you have like
Uh,
ADHD?
Usually I have an app on my phone that I can record my professor's lectures, which does help because I can revert back to it later. That is given to us for free from the college, from the Center for Students with Disabilities. And I know for a fact that I use it in class all the time, and my professors know because it's given to us by the college. So it does help to be able to go back because the app will not only record, but it will actually transcribe
Hmm.
the lecture so you can see it in words as opposed to just hearing it auditorily as well. So it's a huge help.
Yeah. Now I want to kind of switch over to dating life.
Okay.
How is that, Jen? Like, because
So in itself is a very difficult one. I personally haven't found anybody that really understands my, especially when I'm having a crisis or a meltdown, that makes the whole situation a lot worse. I could be, snappy at people and just really moody and irritable, and some guys don't understand that. Like, to the reality that it's very frustrating because it could just be my medication be off, or it could just be chemical imbalance in my brain. There's a lot of things that it could be.
yeah, and I know that must be tough to kind of find willing to like kind of accept that. But
Right,
I mean, don't give up. It's, what I mean. You just have to
right,
kind of like pick Nick, because I mean,
right. Of
somebody
course.
has, like, themselves, or maybe they
Mhm.
want to like someone, then that's
Here's
fine.
here's
Make
what I
the
say,
relationship.
and I'm by any means a love doctor. I don't have all the answers, right? But this mindset mentality that I used to have. There's 8 point whatever billion people in the world. Over half of those are women, right? So the way to find love nowadays, we're so connected with the whole world, but so many people are still stuck in their bubbles. Once you get
Right.
outside of your bubble, there's so many other people out there, and you just never know, who you could meet. So I'm not saying like don't date a person across the street from where you live, but when you have the opportunity to explore around the country, explore outside, it may only be a couple $100 to take a trip to some place, and
Mhm.
go, singles, and like outside of the little
Yes.
area. So just keep that in mind because there's somebody for everyone on this earth. And I'm wife in Saudi Arabia, and she's from Malaysia, and I'm from America.
My
So
gosh.
we literally met in the middle of the earth between the two countries, right? So
That's
it's just
amazing.
funny how you someone anywhere in the world.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. And my, and then we are gonna have to wrap here. But I just wanted to kind of know your thoughts about, like, surviving, after learning. Like, what are some of the tools that, I mean, people utilize, or that you utilize? Because I know you said that, you have people that you can depend on, but like when those are not around, what other tools that you can kind of use to keep sane? Because I know it's a whole lot of mental illnesses in the world as well as mental health issues as well. But what are some
Definitely.
of the tools that you see that kind of help stay sane in this crazy world?
So when my people that I usually go to are not available, I have the crisis text line. I also have the crisis line here in El Paso to the mental health authority here as well. And those lines pretty much run 24/7. So regardless of whether it's day or night, I have the option to reach out, and I can just talk to a random stranger in this event or, whatever, and just talk to somebody and just have them listen. And they're there for that specific purpose. So I would advise people that are going through, a meltdown or whatever you're going through, that, you lines, because it's free. You don't have to pay a dime for calling those numbers. So it's to anybody that needs the assistance or needs, can definitely help you there.
Yeah, I would with that. We do thank you though for coming on the show.
Definitely. Thank you for having me.
It was really a pleasure to kind of do a topic that we've never really talked about before, learning disability.
Yes.
It's a lot of men in the world that suffer from that, and if you notice, but I think a lot of people don't talk about that side, and
Yeah,
kind
so
of excluded,
Yeah, it's a lot of strength to be vulnerable and speak about that. And you said you've spoken at conferences, and in the feedback that you get is people's like, I feel that my daughter, whoever can achieve something because they see you as a role model, and keep doing that. Thank you for
other
doing
thing I wanted to kind of mention here. Yeah, it is a lot of stigma around people that have learning disabilities, and they think that they will never amount to anything.
Mm-hmm.
What is one piece of advice that you would give to people that have learning disabilities, if you can, from your experience?
Yes, of course. Just believe in yourself. Don't ever sell yourself short. Don't give up. I know that's the easiest thing we can do. Honestly, if it's one thing I've learned from being in college is that we're masters at procrastination, especially when it comes to studying and doing our homework and all that. So
That's just ones with learning
yeah,
disabilities.
yes, definitely. Don't give up. That's my main piece of advice. Just forward and just keep trucking along, because honestly, it does get better, and you really have to believe in yourself before anything else. So you really just have to keep going and trying to just make your come true.
One last for you.
Sure.
So you talk about going forward and finding help, and the therapist you may speak with may not be the one for you. Did you have experience like that where you've seen quite a few therapists and you had to jump around to find one that worked for you?
Yes, actually, I have dealt with that. And more recently, I discovered a counselor that does cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT as it's referred to. And
Hmm.
it's actually very helpful compared to just regular counseling. I do have some trauma where, I'm not speaking to my family, and it's over various reasons. They don't agree with my sexuality, my political views, and amongst other things. When it comes to religion, I'm not religious, so they don't really like that. And my family is just very intolerant, so I am in counseling for that. But I do feel like CBT is very helpful, because what they do is they try to get to the root of the problem so that you can address it. Whereas other counselors I've been with, they just sit there and listen to you talk, and they just give you advice, and it really doesn't seem to help get to the root of the problem.
Absolutely. And I feel like, as a solver, it's once you get to the root of a problem, it becomes
Mhm.
easier or more manageable to solve the problem, because now you
Right.
can work on steps that will actually help solve the problem instead of just putting a band-aid
Mhm.
on a circumstance. So thanks
Right.
a lot
Definitely.
for sharing your story.
Yeah,
Yes, definitely.
yeah, it really means the world to. I know one man is probably going to relate to this when we post it. But don't be a stranger though, Brandon. You can always come back on. You can always do
Okay.
another topic if you want to. Yeah, we also have a Discord channel where we help men, around the world to kind of, share with other men in hopes to solve a solution. So
Yes,
I can
definitely.
share all those links with you, after. But I do
Okay.
appreciate you for coming on here.
Awesome.
Takes a lot
Sounds good. Thank you for having
takes a
me.
lot of vulnerability to open up and,
Yes, definitely.
all right.
To the talk show where men unite, having conversations that inspire, ignite. From relationships to wellness, we cover it all. In this positive space, we're standing tall. We're the men of the talk show, spreading good vibes.